Table or truth?
All right, let's go to the next point here.
Yes.
Pondering number 5. How the hell did the Israeli government allow this attack to happen was one of the words on the street, right? Which I think most people by now have pondered that same thing. Like, they have an extremely good surveillance system.
Well, the attack is one thing. Again, well planned. Some speculate a year in advance.
Okay, no, that makes sense. They set up the attack, but
right.
but the defense is being down.
But
therein lies the thing. Like, if one assumes that they let their guard down, that actually tarnishes a reputation, what I would think is one of the great, like the best armies and security systems in the world. Seeing how the Iron Dome is the Iron Dome.
Yeah, but what is the Iron Dome, sir?
Well, without making this sound facetious, it's one hell of a G.I. Joe-ish like super missile base command where it just takes out any kind of incoming MIRVs.
Very good.
Coming at it.
But that doesn't take care of two things. One, anyone breaching the perimeter.
No, I get that, but
and two, the townships, because of the way Iron Dome works, it's more.
It's more overall like federal.
Well,
command.
no, the townships or cities that are surrounding Gaza are not necessarily protected by Iron Dome because
I get
it's so close to the to Gaza.
Okay, so there's a problem here with this unanswered question.
Well, the question is obviously the Israeli Defense Force was not prepared for this.
Right.
But the question I have more was the response time. If you didn't have a plan that if even just say one section, let alone the, 25, 30 sections that they hit at the same time, land, sea, and air, they paraglided over.
Yeah, that's. I almost got ran over by a paraglider about 3 weeks ago up in freaking Clinton Dam. Oh. Yeah, just a little side note here. Like, you can't avoid those guys hitting you, by the way. Like, I almost did a tuck and roll. This is a true story. I have a picture on my phone to prove it, by the way.
Why do you need proof? Your word's not good enough?
Well, in case anybody's wondering, I do have my own paragliding incident here. In no way to downplay the shit that's happened,
okay.
But what's
Post
up?
that.
Post that?
Post that with your...
I will post up a Yeah, well, this knucklehead, like, I don't know if you can legally do this, but like he's getting close to land. They were just flying around. I'm just taking a nice stroll down, the reservoir there, like Wachusett Reservoir, right next to Clinton Dam. And next thing you know, I've got my big giant headphones on, listening to Fat Beats. I turn around and I literally had maybe 10 seconds. I'm staring, what the hell is that coming at? Because it was like silhouetted by the sunset. I'm like, that's a paraglider. If I don't get the hell out of the way, I'm going to get run over by a paraglider. I almost wanted to get hit just to see what would happen. Because it's not like the guy would not be in trouble for hitting me. I was like, I probably could survive the hit. But I'm like, technically, if I was a real douche, I'd be like, dude, you just hit me with a paraglider. Blah, blah, blah. But I'm not going to do that. But anyway, true story. Sorry, we'll go back to the real stuff. That's more serious. This is more serious.
But not to be ready for any type of attack with a quick response team.
Yeah.
Because evidently most of the forces were around the West Bank. And so there did not seem to be a concern with Gaza.
See, here's the thing, though. This is the biggest gaping hole that's going to bring the conspiracy theories out of the woodwork. All right? Because already, the big one is, was there possibly someone within the government making this like an inside job that allowed him to get in there, right? Taking it a step further, could this be the best excuse for the leaders of the West to get involved in a war? Because, let's just quote this. Let's be real. Sinister leaders know that war focuses the attention away from domestic problems in their countries, and it puts some other focus on something else. And it's a hell of a way for for instance, in the U.S., the military-industrial complex to profiteer into a new industry while justifying a surveillance state, which is what it seems that pegs at Davos wanted all along. I'm quoting. So I guess that means the leaders of Davos.
You're quoting a conspiracy theorist?
I'm quoting. Yeah, I'm quoting Texas on message boards. If anyone, well, okay, so let's think about this. So let's just be rational. The Ukraine war seems to be heavily pushed by certain people in our government that put all these excuses about like, oh, we want democracy there, but it's clear that they're not really have much of a democracy in Ukraine. It's what it is. Something needs to be done to stop Putin. That's fair. But the argument was we don't have the resources to really stop Putin. We did a few episodes back. So if you want to watch some of these back issues, we got a couple of gems on that.
What do you
stuff.
mean we can't stop Putin?
Well, who's winning that war right now? By the way, I know all the media attention's gone to the Israeli war, but it's not like the freaking Ukraine-Russia war just stopped and they just kind of waited in the sidelines watching this one, and taking a breather. Like there's clearly stuff going on still in Ukraine and Russia. How is the state of Ukraine doing with Putin's constant barrage into Ukraine? Well, as far as I know, they're not doing well. They're pretty much losing. And if they lose their funding by the West, right, they're not going to have the resources to really stop Russia from really achieving their objective.
Ukraine is not losing the war.
So we're still funding Ukraine.
Us and the Western world and other countries are still.
Is it fair to say, all right, just thinking like a conspiracy theorist here, that the popular motivation to try to get everybody riled up to join the bandwagon to want to start a war or aid the war in Ukraine has not done as well as, let's just say, the Biden administration has hoped it would. So therefore, again, this is pure conspiracy theory here. Let's start a new front somehow, one way or another, right? I'm just saying. I'm not like yay or nay. Just things to take a pipe.
Okay, Tucker.
Sit back.
Okay, Tucker. Okay, I'm just asking questions.
All right, no, that's fair. That's fair. I'm just asking questions. Those are fair questions.
Ridiculous.
They may be ridiculous, but.
Ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. And
sometimes,
two, Ukraine is not losing the war.
Okay, they're doing well.
The counteroffensive is not going as well as had hoped. But Russia had years to secure and get entrenched in the places and mine everything there on their western border. It's slow going, no doubt. But some of the things that I thought we failed to do, particularly my concern was the lack of air cover that Poland had originally when the war started.
They bailed out, didn't they, Poland?
No, I will correct you on that. Poland originally was going to give Ukraine their MiGs, which Ukrainian pilots knew how to fly, and if the United States would replace Poland's MiGs with F-16s, which we could have done. I thought it was a terrific offer, and but the Biden administration did not want to escalate the conflict, so it was limited on what we did give Ukraine initially. Now that they've done very well, we're slowly ramping up. But again, that's time. That's time. And right now, Putin's game is a simple one. He's waiting to see who wins the 2024 election.
Okay, so the war is being purposely stretched just to see who wins the election, or
because Putin can't take Ukraine. He can't take him right now. He cannot take Ukraine.
But he could if, in theory, let's just say someone like Trump came in and was like, what are we doing in Ukraine? Everybody pull out, right? Because then Ukraine wouldn't have any defenses.
Yeah, but Russia has not proved to be the big bad boys that everyone thought they were.
But if that's the case, then why are we even, at the risk of sounding callous to the poor people in Ukraine, But if Ukraine's a sacrificial lamb in these war games, lamb in these war games, sorry, and Russia's not as much of a threat, and let's just say Trump came into power and he said, let's just get out of there. What's the point? And not only would that sort of go in favor with reducing tensions between the West and Russia, right? Which is kind of what we want ultimately anyway, right? Because the biggest fear is that Russia is going to take over all of Europe like Hitler or something, right? That's like the what the media seems to push.
Or, or the ex countries that formulated the USSR.
Okay, but either way, that's the concern. Like somehow they have the economic firepower to just keep getting greedy and wanting to take out all of Europe and enslave them or something. But of course, if Ukraine's let loose and Russia gets their way, then in theory, you just said it yourself, or you insinuated it. Like, wouldn't that reduce the tensions between the West and Russia?
No.
Why?
Because we are Russia's number one enemy.
Why? But why were we? Because we want us to be Russia's number. Why would we even want to be their enemy? And why would, you know what I mean? Not to sound like cowards here, but not to say. Why would we want to be their enemy when maybe we could just have better relations with Russia in general and understand one another?
Well,
as naive as that sounds,
well,
everybody hold hands.
I hate that. Generally, I don't like answering questions with questions.
It's okay. We forgive you. This is a question-free answering questions with questions zone.
I appreciate
space,
that.
If you will.
The question I always had for Putin is that you were a player on the world stage. You were with the G8 until you decided to go into Ukraine, and so it became the G7, right? You already were prominent on the world stage, even though we know. Explain to me what do you get out of Ukraine? You've got more landmass than you know what to do with, and I understand Ukraine has agricultural advantages that you don't have, but you've got.
I'm guessing
oil.
Legacy, maybe.
Legacy. Well, it's a piss poor legacy. If they were going to roll in as the game plan was and be in Kyiv in 2 to 3 weeks, fine and dandy. But the problem is that did not happen. You got beat back, and so now you talk about exit strategies. What is theirs? They have none because they didn't think they were going to be here a year later.
Well, not to sound macabre, right? But I think that I always find it fascinating how almost octogenarians that have that much power want to fuck things up rather than think of long-term legacy, because inevitably they are not going to be here forever. And you think that creating a more harmonic legacy is better than just a quick one last shot at power. I don't understand that. That's just me. But maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm not wise enough to understand that yet.
Well, one of the things that Americans do, we tend to look at things outside of our borders as they're us. And Americans about the green. We're about the money.
Want water, by the way?
No, thank you.
Right, keep talking. Sorry.
So we're about the money, and we look at other nations as if they are about the money, and they're not.
They're about what? Legacy?
Well, it depends.
And if it's legacy, what the hell kind of a legacy is that?
Well, he wants power.
What power? You're about to die. I mean, I'm sorry to sound grim, but what the fuck kind of power is that? Power would be like immortality and then securing a reign of terror for 1,000 years.
No, he's looking at his legacy again after he dies.
Somebody just replaces
that he had taken over Ukraine,
and then he's remembered as an asshole by the rest of the world. It doesn't add up.
Doesn't care about the rest of the world. Again, care about his legacy in the Russian history books. And right now, it doesn't look good.
No, well, it doesn't look good. But all right. I guess the one thing to get out of that question of the conspiracy theories was really, I'll just leave it with this point. Don't even answer this unless you want to. But the big problem is that if it's true that the world, the power brokers in power in the West, aside from Xi Jinping in China or whatever, want a society where they have more power over everybody and a police state where they can really control people, one of the best ways to create a police state is to create a war or manufacture a crisis that leads to a war. And because you are given executive emergency powers as a government to then enact your authoritarian rule for the sake of security, and then you don't release and give up those powers, getting into a war, starting a war, egging on a war is the best way to just achieve your goals, which apparently it seems like those in the WEF, maybe not like the Fortune 500 companies, but whoever the fuck is connected with governing bodies as well.
What is WEF?
I know people like confuse it with like the WWF or the WWE or the WBF, but the WEF is the World Economic Forum.
Oh, okay.
All right. And the bottom line is that like the idea is that they just want to create a system where technocrats can run everything, see everything you're doing. Basically an Orwellian world.
So you're blaming the WEF for
behind
the Hamas
the scenes
Israel war?
I'm not blaming anybody. I'm telling you, this is word on the street conspiracy theory for good or bad.
All right.
I don't know. See, I give it like again a grain of salt. Let me meditate on this rather than just like there's no flood, Noah. Right? I'm like, no. You know what? There's some unanswered questions here that people just either laugh.
No, I just
run
answered
away
the
from
question. It's ridiculous.
That's
That's the answer.
That's the most wise answer you can come up with. Right. Let's move on to the next one here.
Oh, yes, please.
The next three, I believe, are more philosophical rants, but I think we already covered this one. Number 6, what is the most logistical strategy Israel could take for bringing retribution on the injustices done upon them? Or in other words, how does it achieve its objective in a way that it doesn't necessarily escalate further tensions in the Middle East? I think we already covered that. I mean, the most reasonable way to do it, as far as I can tell, is to you achieve your objective and then give a fair system where the people in Gaza that obediently left Gaza are given a chance to at least rebuild their land, even though it's going to be a pain in the ass. How they're going to do it?
You make it sound like, it's farmland. We just go back and
I didn't make anything sound. I didn't create this shit. I'm just saying they get first dibs. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Right, but no, yes, they can go back to their land with the rubble that's left of their apartment that's there.
Yeah, and the whole justification for that is that if they want to keep a less controversial reputation, Israel would have to be the quote unquote bigger person in this case, and show the Middle East in particular that. They're not there to just take the land, I guess, but they did warn the people to get out of Gaza, and so anybody left, it's what it is. Boy, it's so messed up when we're just thinking of this like a game of Risk when there's actually real people that are like really just effed over right now, but whatever. I mean, I don't even know. If I think about it, I suppose the tone of this podcast becomes much more grim, but I don't know how else to look at it. It's like, this is just fucked up any way you look at it. I'm sorry, you want to add something? Or?
No, what's the next question?
All right, the next point is, could it be that these things that happens that we're seeing in the Middle East right now between Israel and Palestine are situations that happen every 30 to 50 years, being inevitable situations that will happen simply because people don't go deep enough down the rabbit hole as to what causes this kind of strife on a more philosophical scale in the first place?
Well, that is a quite interesting question, because if you look at it in the Middle East, actually lately, if you look at a lot of the world, we're having wars. We continue to have wars.
I mean, I understand the desire to want to, I guess, punch someone that's like wreaked injustice on you, but at the same time, there's a level of restraint and wisdom to know that certain things are not worth, or like thinking of the repercussions. I mean, it's what it is.
Well, look at Hamas. They had to know that Israel was going to punch back, and that Israel was going into Gaza. But what was your goal? Was your goal to say that, see, we're fighting Israel, the whole Muslim world needs to back us and fight Israel also? Is this supposed to be a spark?
Yeah. Well, if it was a spark that was meant to get everybody to back them, it doesn't look like it's really doing that. And hopefully that's the way it stays. But
Well, as you're aware, we've got one aircraft carrier um, that was immediately put in. We've got a second one on the way, just to tell Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon, don't. As President Biden said, we got Israel's back, and we put naval power right there to prove it.
so might makes right.
Might makes right.
Right.
No.
I don't necessarily think it does ultimately, but in this case, for immediate solution neutralization, it would seem Mike makes right.
No, nothing's happened yet.
Yeah, because nobody wants to fuck with an aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean Sea that could.
And a second one on the way. On a big team.
Right. So, no, I mean, it almost reminds me of the Second Amendment, if you will. Of people being more strapped than not to stop the bad doers. But what are you looking at here?
No, well, there's a point that I wanted to bring up.
Bring it up. Bring it up.
Well,
dude.
no,
I've been doing most of it badly.
Through your questions.
Yeah. No.
Did you happen to see Pete Davidson on Saturday Night Live?
No, I didn't have time. What the hell did I do Saturday night? I think I went for karaoke, actually. So I was...
oh, isn't that nice? Did you sing?
You'd be surprised. I could pelt up a couple.
That didn't answer
Yeah, I
the
did.
question.
I did. If I
All right,
recall
what
correctly.
song?
It was Tears for Fears, and it was... what the hell's the name of it? Head Over Heels, I believe.
That was just going through my head.
There you go.
I love that song.
Psychic.
I love that song. So, and you did that solo.
Oh, dude, one of these days, I'll tell you what, one of these days we'll have a sweepstakes. Nobody will join it. But for those of you who donate enough money on the supposed Patreon that doesn't exist, but eventually maybe, I don't know, whatever, I will personally do a Zoom episode and sing and serenade to you and someone you love. Any songs from the 90s, 80s, early 2000s, and some selections of hip hop, and even Gregorian chants. But that's a long-term sort of sweepstakes goal prize. I don't know if anybody would actually take me up on it, but there you go. Anyway, let's move on.
Let's get back to Pete Davidson. Anyway,
all right, yeah, Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson gave a moving monologue on Saturday Night Live about the Israeli-Hamas war.
Okay.
Davidson said, "But in a lot of ways, I am a good person to talk about this event." Because you remember the writer's strike? So This is Saturday Night Live. The writer's strike's over. So this is their first show since.
Oh, wow. Okay. Was it any good? Did the actual vacation time actually help, or did it ruin good writing at SNL?
Well, all right. You
maybe I'll have to watch the show.
No, you be the judge, because this was the beginning of Saturday Night Live. So Peter Davidson recalled that when he was 7 years old, his dad was killed in a terrorist attack.
Good.
And so, which was 9/11.
Right.
He said, so he knew something about what that's like.
Yeah.
Says no one deserves to suffer like that, especially not kids.
Right.
So Davidson continued. He said, after my dad died, my mom tried pretty much everything she could do to cheer me up. He said he remembered one day when he was 8, she got him what she thought was a Disney movie, but it actually was Eddie Murphy's stand-up special, Delirious. And the two of them, they played it in the car on the way home. When she heard some of the things that Eddie Murphy was saying, she tried to take it away, but then she noticed something. For the first time in a long time, her son was laughing again. Davidson said he doesn't understand it, and he never will, but sometimes comedy is really the only way forward through tragedy. Davidson's heart is with everyone whose lives have been destroyed this week, but tonight he's going to do what he always has done in the face of tragedy, and that he's going to try to be funny. Sometimes comedy is really the only way forward through tragedy.
Which is ironic because, oh God, should I say it? I mean, it sounds like a very noble moment, so maybe I won't say anything. Uh, he's kind of liberal, isn't he?
And
Well, isn't a lot of the virtue police like hate the concept of comedy that maybe is slightly offensive, that pokes fun at the idiosyncrasies of certain stereotypes and stuff like that? But maybe we're going down a tangent we probably should.
No, we aren't. You are.
Which is why I'm not going to continue this. Maybe for another episode. All right.
We're not, but you are.
All right. But anyway, aside from the fact that he looks like he never gets enough sleep, he's all right in my books.
All right. But the thing is, again, he could speak to this after losing his father in 9/11. So that's a moment. And again,
no, legit. Like, he's got every right to, yeah.
And so, this isn't the first time that Saturday Night Live has done something like
Serious?
this at the beginning.
Yeah,
and the same thing with 9/11. They brought on Giuliani and others at the beginning, serious thing. And then
back when he was one of the good guys.
They threw the little punchline. He says, okay, now we're going to try to be funny. And they gave Giuliani a line. He says, oh, it's going to work this time, or words to that effect. So, and it went over well. And that's one of the things that Saturday Night Live does for a lot of people. I haven't watched it fully in years.
Because ironically, it's not that funny.
The primetime players and whatnot, but they're still there for the people. So,
well, no, okay. In all fairness, yeah, that's always noble when they try to like rally up the community like that. I think that's very endearing in a way. Not to sound cheesy myself, but I just wish they were better writing. They're just not that good. As soon as you mentioned Eddie Murphy, my face smiled because I was thinking Boogie in Your Butt. I sang that at a karaoke once. That went pretty well.
Oh, did it?
People dug it. Yeah, man, that's a brilliant song. Look it up, folks, if you've ever heard Boogie in Your Butt by Eddie Murphy. It's a classic. Anyway, sorry. Let's go back to a more serious tone here. I almost feel bad. We shouldn't really be talking about crap like that, like considering the gravity of the situation here. I guess if we pull a Pete Davidson, maybe we can bring a little lightness to this. I don't fucking know. All right, so meditation number 8. I think we've kind of covered this one. How does one prevent this kind of thing in any other part of the world, in any community, from happening again? I think that's a very reasonable philosophical question. Actually, yeah.
That's why the UN was formulated after World War II. To hopefully prevent this kind of thing, and that we can talk. We've seen it. We can go back again to Russia again, invading without any provocation.
Fair enough. And I'm not supporting the fact that Russia invaded Ukraine. By the way, I'm sure most people that are questioning.
No, what your question is U.S. support
when they can't really afford it. But yeah,
when you say we can't afford it, we're talking about what, maybe 1% of our defense budget. We can't afford it.
I just keep thinking of real domestic programs that could be made first for the citizens here in the United States first and foremost. That's that kind of stuff.
If that money that we're sending, if that money we're sending Ukraine would be spent on that. I may entertain that, but that money wasn't going to be spent on that.
You mean by the U.S. if it was kept in the country?
Yes.
Well, that just shows the real issue. That's the real problem in our country, which is just bad government policies and money distribution. I mean, that's what the money should be spent on, like just getting a system of individuals who have restored the checks and balance system in such a way where. Actually, you know what? I have a little bit of a rant coming soon that I might add some like thematic music if I edit this thing, because this is legit. I'd love to hear what you think about this. I hope it makes sense. This brings me to point 9, the most existentially profound observation and point here. Okay, is there anything we can learn as a lesson from this insanity that happened? Do you think?
Too early. We have to see how this is resolved before we can say whether or not we learned something. Well, obvious is to be prepared.
Right.
To have contingency plans. There's always.
But not used as an excuse to create a police state in the sake of security and paranoia.
Oh, wrong,
Wrong?
wrong. As I said, perhaps it was last week, that when you get additional security, you lose some freedom. That's just a fact.
Right. Now, we wouldn't need the extra security if we hadn't had. Oh, God. Now, okay, I sound like a conservative here.
No, you're a rhino.
I'm not. Yeah, okay. No, I definitely don't sound like a rhino here.
Yeah, you are.
What I'm
'Cause
saying
I'm
is.
prove it to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'd like to hear how the
It's-
hell I'm a rhino.
As soon as you say what you say, I'm going to tell you why you're a rhino.
We have allowed thousands upon thousands, no, maybe even millions of undocumented immigrants into the country, which obviously is a big problem now, considering the tensions in the Middle East. How many sleeper cells supposedly could be in the country now?
Oh God!
And therefore the conspiracy, the tinfoil hat is coming off my head right now, or falling on me.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to
Nope.
go.
No,
with
I'm in the zone now.
I thought you were going to go with
Now,
your love for Russia.
Once again,
where I was going to point out how you were a rhino.
Once again, all this seems to insinuate is the perfect excuse to just up the ante on police state, while potentially inevitable skirmishes occur due to potential sleeper cells around the country. I hope to God I'm wrong and every conspiracy theorist is wrong about that. But it's the perfect excuse to just level up the police state in all the wrong ways around the country and create the kind of authoritarian Orwellian system of surveillance that it seems the peeps at Davos want. That would be the power brokers behind the WEF on everyone, monitor everything, CBDC, although I heard that's actually been vetoed down for the time being. But anything to get that 2030 agenda in place where you'll own nothing and be happy, will control everything and create a serfdom society where very few people are super rich and the rest of us are like very low middle class, if even middle class. And we've been brainwashed so much we're not able to have any critical thinking. And at worst, we end up like Canada, where now even like free speech and stuff is censored on YouTube or whatever by means of the government. Now, or even worse, China. All right. Again, I said it before. A war is a perfect excuse to like kickstart that for the sake of emergency. By the way, if there's any kids here listening to the show, which whatever, I make sure these are not made for kids, but whatever. Watch Star Wars. Watch the prequel trilogy if you want to understand geopolitics. It's the perfect lesson plans. And I'm going to throw a shout out to a YouTube channel actually that I really like called Generation Tech. The guy that does those, I think his name is Alan. He does an exceptionally good job using the Star Wars saga story and all the little sub stories and all like the expansion universe and everything into real legitimate geopolitical lesson plans of how power becomes corrupt, like any government. And he uses a fantasy world to outline the existential problems in any government, even the real ones in our world. And he does an exceptional job. So this is a cheap pop to Generation Tech. Honestly, I think whoever's listening to this would dig it, especially if you're a Star Wars nut. Really educational. I would definitely recommend this to kids if they want to learn politics and history. That's it. Anyway, sorry. No more cheap commercial shots here, but okay, can I throw something out?
Shoot.
All right. So this brings me to a more serious, what's the word? Soliloquy? A rant?
Rant.
Okay.
Works for me.
If we were to study governments like Hamas, or I suppose if you close your eyes and think of our world in general here, does the insanity that happened right now in the Middle East all lead to the fact that instead of practically every country just going around like they always do with diplomats and naively trying to patch things up with diplomatic policies, when things go to crap, maybe the way we as a human species need to go is to revamp the very way we perceive just our consciousness. Okay, and let me go a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole here. Grab your cigs if you have them. All right. Just as we have universally embraced physics for its technological efficiencies, okay, that kind of said understanding of science or just mechanics has brought upon us and benefited countries all over the world. Okay, does that make sense so far? Just as physics has taught us that there are absolute objective truths that we can all benefit from. All right. So likewise, maybe the secret here is trying to study or put some time and see if there's any truth to irrefutable spiritual laws and mechanics that may exist, that may govern human consciousness, that may affect the health and wellness of any human being at any moment in time.
Spiritual what?
Mechanics.
Of mechanics?
Now, let me elaborate on that idea.
Spiritual of mechanics with established science does not compute.
Let me elaborate here. Take the red pill for a second. All right, spiritual laws of mechanics, this term that I'm proposing, is the idea that there are almost like mechanical-like laws of cause and effect that happen due to decisions we make that are not necessarily measurable the way physics laws are, where we can quantify mass and energy, but we can look at cause and effect in terms of statistical probability, whether a decision will benefit a human and enhance their health and wellness, or really fuck them up and make them bring up a higher chance of them dying easier. Okay?
You're talking chaos theory.
I guess I'm talking chaos theory. And I think that if we really, any society got to the bottom of that and really took the time in a good season to study that stuff, okay? And figured out what are the universal laws, if there are any, of cause and effect, that if we obeyed certain principles, almost like the way physics laws are irrefutable, and we really respected these principles, we may be able to arrive to a place where if we just accepted, well, this is almost more canon than not. This is more absolute objective truth than not, okay? If we follow and abide by these principles, by default, we're going to live a healthier lifestyle, like individually, communally, sociologically, nationally, and then eventually on the world stage. Okay? The closest thing we have to that are probably major religions that try to teach you virtues in their own state, and of course, each one has their own belief in God or their deity. But at the end of the day, there are certain rules that abide that seem to promote a healthier lifestyle for the individuals who practice those religions. Is that fair?
No.
No?
No.
I'd say some of the major ones.
Would you, in world history, there have been a large number of wars that were caused and started because of religion.
Okay, so all right, I got a counterpoint for that. Are the people that started those wars that were in power in the name of some religion actually really practicing the foundations of what that religion was teaching? Or did they weaponize some of the principles of those teachings in that religion and use it to exploit and influence people and then make them believe in a cause that actually isn't part of what the original themes of those religions are pushing? Great example, the Crusades, right? In Christianity, the Crusades were pretty barbaric, right, in the Middle Ages. Okay. The expansion of divine providence to just want to go and expand and exploit indigenous populations and colonize them, but instead of actually maybe assisting them to live spiritually better lives and giving them their just due rights of being the natives of those lands, maybe some individuals use this sort of spirit of elitism and exploited their biblical principles that they originally had and twisted them in such a way where they could benefit from power. The Catholic Church is notorious for doing this in the Middle Ages, right? Creating governments that kind of weaponize the Bible.
Well, not just the Middle Ages. Get the Protestants and Catholics
okay. So
and others.
Does that make the purity of that said religion, though, toxic? Like the original principles of like the Golden Rule or the principles of wisdom found in the book of Proverbs?
Well, when you have your religious leaders giving you interpretations of the rules, per se, of your religion, who's human?
Could it be, though, that the real secret is everybody is given the individual responsibility, just as they are with their own personal health, to have a checks and balance system so that anybody that's feeding you an idea All right, it's still up to you to ascertain and trying to find the ultimate truth behind it, and
No,
that requires some discipline, just
no,
like exercise.
no. What you have is you have wolves and you have sheep.
Right.
There are a lot of people who will just follow. They will blindly follow uh, what they're told to do.
But the laws of mechanics doesn't care whether you do that or not. There's still cause and effect, and this is actually just reinforces my point. All right, there are metaphysical laws of cause and effect of mechanics that if we ignore them, this will always be a pattern. You will either end up as a victim to these circumstances, or you may be able to rise above the ashes no matter where you're at, which we have seen as evidence in almost any society where certain people have risen above the ashes because they seem to have a certain virtue inside of them.
Give me the last society, or give me an example.
Ironically, I was thinking Oprah. I don't know why Oprah, but according to the legends that Oprah was like born poor or whatever, I don't think she was, but according to the little kids' storybooks, she was born in poverty. She rose her way up the ranks, eventually got her own talk show and became a billionaire. I don't know enough of the story. That's a terrible example because I don't really like Oprah. But
well, no, I thought you were talking about how people.
I'm talking about the metaphysics of the human condition. Anybody being able to rise like above the ashes, no matter who they are. It doesn't have to be a biblical hero. It's just the human condition.
I thought we were talking about on the religious that someone who believed in, let's say, a priest who was speaking the gospel.
If you're living vicariously through what a priest is telling you, and you're being spoon-fed all your thoughts that are supposed to be deep by a third person, but you don't actually take the time to kind of meditate and formulate your own personal, as they say, spiritual walk with the Creator, assuming, there is one, right? I'm trying to speak impartially here. And take that time to spend that odyssey and develop your own mind, body, spirit, and be real with yourself. Well, you're at the mercy if that priest or that holy leader or that role model f's up for whatever reason, you're going to be crushed. It seems that is actually one of the principles found, ironically, in the Ten Commandments. Don't have any other gods before the God, right? If you have a person that you're worshiping almost in the sense of like as an idol, a proverbial idol, maybe you're not like bowing down and worshiping him, but like you're living vicariously through that person's every word they say. You're resting on everything that they're saying, and you're putting them above what seems to be nature's push of innate responsibility that you should have as a human being to get closer to the ultimate objective truth. And when I say nature, I'm not necessarily comparing it to the God. I'm just saying like the laws of mechanics, right? You may be in danger of falling under a cult leader, or if that person falls, you're hopelessly lost. And so there is a drawback to living vicariously through heroes and role models too much. I mean, we should have them, but we shouldn't be living in a way where we are hanging every word that these people in power are saying and putting that authority over like some bigger divine authority that's teaching objective truth. Great case study. I hate to bring it up, but the unfortunate people in any country who live under a government that they might have voted into power, but they didn't do their due research, hung on to every word that governmental figure or party or system had, and as a result are now reaping the consequences due to those people being elected into power and just assuming, well, they'll take care of everything. It's not our responsibility to do any critical thinking ourselves.
Anyone you had in mind?
Well, I don't want to mention it to piss you off, but
no, mention it, please.
I'm sorry.
What?
I'm sorry. Harris. No, not her. That's too easy.
People are following Harris?
No, they're not. That's why I was like, no, that's not.
People
voted. Okay, I don't want to go there because I don't want to piss off.
No, you brought it because you made the statement.
If I assume that, let's not even throw good old Joe Biden in here. Come on, that's too.
What?
If I assume that any governmental figure, and okay, let me spin it the other way to be fair here. And I assume Trump is my Lord and Savior, and he can save America and restore balance back.
I've heard that from some MAGA people. Right?
I know you have. I've heard it too from some evangelicals even.
Yes.
And I would say they're dangerously in the red zone of actually disobeying. I think it's the second command, which is putting an idol above the wisdom and the spirit and the relations of the creator. You know, not to sound like Tucker Carlson or Steve Turley, but I think, yeah, that's a good way to just say, check yourself. You're putting this guy in a pedestal. He's still a human. He's still going to F up. Maybe he will do some effective functional reforms for the United States. But if you're thinking he's the cause of your salvation, hence there's an issue. So all I'm saying, let me go back to what the freak I was saying here, but I think I'm onto something. All right. Any government that actually wants to show some sort of transparency in terms of wanting to show their well-being, like to show that they have their best interests for the well-being of their citizens, I would say it would behoove them to push or take some sort of money and set up a program to really seriously investigate and set up a system that studies these metaphysical laws of mechanics to a bigger degree so that you can prevent shit from happening in the first place. If you develop a set of social mores and a system of values in your society that trains people so well that they become self-aware of catching themselves before their idiosyncrasies kick in, they're less likely to make mistakes. Even if they are slightly justified feeling some sort of systematic injustice, maybe they're less likely to commit a crime. Because it's like their own conscience is there just going, don't do that, right? They're also given the ability to develop enough wisdom to problem solve and or just create their own economic prosperity, if that's possible, individually or as a collective commune, you know, and then just help the community that way, right? If you could teach people values that will involuntarily resonate because they are aware of how their own human consciousness works in terms of these like sort of laws and mechanics that govern human behavior. Like, now, I'll give you a perfect example here. What I'm talking about. I steal something. There's going to be an effect, right? There's going to be an effect because of me stealing something. That's not a scientific principle, but it's definitely like some sort of a metaphysical law that is observant if we study history, right?
So,
I invade a country.
No.
I should massacre a bunch of people. There is an effect.
Stay right there.
I'm right. I'm
So
sitting right here.
what are you feeling when you steal something?
Well, I feel guilt, shame, I suppose.
Or you could feel the thrill that you got away with something. So it won't take 2 seconds before you get that thrill again by stealing something else.
Right. But if I'm aware of how my own dopamine kicks can work against me in the long run, because I see the inevitable doom of a life of either, you know, I'm addicted to being a kleptomaniac, right? Or any kind of an addict for something. I might be able to have a little bit more foresight into my future.
But you're not a kleptomaniac.
No, but my point is, if you develop that kind of education system for people, right?
So it's just the knowledge that stealing is wrong.
The knowledge and the meditation of being able to visualize the roots of cause and effect. You can even throw in history lessons in here by showing when in history have people that have been constantly, continuously evil ever like risen to the top and found success. It's never happened as far as I can know and tell in history. It's like the bittersweet problem of the human condition, right? Like there's not a single soul in history that like conquered the world and stayed there indefinitely for hundreds of years. Like they're like conquered the world and exploited it. I mean, like in a tyrannical way. There's clearly some sort of mechanism that governs reality besides the laws of physics that is so important to how human civilization stays healthy. But I don't think of a single government that really seems to like abide by those principles. The closest we have is maybe the common law that the United States Constitution has that is based on the Bible and like the Ten Commandments. And I'm sure other governments might have some sort of like system of values that are likewise, you know, based on like basic fundamental laws of decency. But I don't think anybody's really studied it as a science. You see what I'm saying? Like to the best of their abilities to really make this almost irrefutable. But if they could really drive that home to their populations, perhaps we would see a different world where there'd be less happening as frequently because we wouldn't need as many diplomats. People would be self-aware enough to kind of quench out the fires of crime or whatever transgressions they feel itching to want to do. before it becomes a sheep, like we just saw here in Palestine. Maybe I'm just being over dramatic. You know, what's your thoughts on this?
I don't think you're over dramatic, but I think that you're too far out there. Humans are humans. There are those that will do anything for power. There are sheep out there that will follow anybody with little pizzazz to tell them what to do, what to put on, what not to.
If I wanted to be in
And,
power, keep going, sir.
Examples that we saw, Catholic Church and the priests that were diddling altar boys.
Okay. If I wanted to be in power, then the current system is the perfect way for me to just stay in power. I exploit these so-called sheep.
Yep.
The people that are more simple than I can take advantage of them. If that's the case, though, we as the underdog shouldn't feel bad due to the inevitable laws of cause and effect. If we're not willing to put ourselves in a pedestal of potentiality that we ourselves have, and somebody mightier than us is going to exploit us, would it be fair to say it's kind of our responsibility to be aware enough about how these mechanisms of consciousness work? If nobody else is teach us, well, I guess we should teach ourselves. But wouldn't it show a government being a true government that serves its people to actually educate individuals so they have access to this kind of, I guess, wisdom, maybe?
And so, what the government is supposed to come up with this lesson, and how are the people supposed to get it? Is it going to be
government programs? Go back to education.
A requirement.
Well, if it's really going to help your health and wellness,
who want to disband the Department of Education.
Well, if they're giving you functional education that improves your cognitive thinking, your critical thinking skills, your problem-solving skills, finds you an ideology that somehow, if you keep practicing, will involuntarily keep you in a perpetual state of joy, peace, maybe emotional resilience, wisdom, dare I say it, and keep you in a way where you have a better chance of becoming prosperous, so you're less likely to find yourself getting into crime. Wouldn't I want that for my population? If I really want to serve my population, if I happen to be a king or a president or something?
That's a lofty and nice thought, but that's not reality.
I know it's not reality because people don't actually.
The United States.
People don't actually bother are even aware it's possible.
Our democracy, right?
You realize what I'm saying?
Your voters can't handle the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. If you tell them that, yes, in order for us to have a balanced budget, I need to raise your taxes, guess what? They will not vote you in because, again, they don't want to hear the truth. They
want to hear the truth.
Handle the truth.
So might makes right. The people that are mightier and smarter than you will exploit you. I'm not saying that's not what reality is currently. I'm saying what I'm proposing is on the old Schrodinger equation and the multiverse, one timeline of reality that is possible for the majority of the human race if we actually were exposed to realizing this is a potential reality we could all have. Then honestly, it sounds like a hell of a lot better than the current one we have, and all it takes is a little self-discipline and self-awareness that these are possible mechanisms that could guide our human consciousness individually and collectively to live a better life. I know I'm starting to sound like a cult leader myself, but I'm just saying, okay, it's a freak, I don't know. Maybe you should.
So you're saying our 9 subscribers are in a cult? That's what you're saying.
No, because you're here too. You're here to create a checks and balance. Yeah, I don't know how we got down that rabbit hole, but this is all the Hamas fault, man. This is all Palestinian Hamas terrorists' fault, right? I wouldn't have been thinking about this shit if. Anyway, I think this is good enough as any to stop our little adventures today. I'll try to get this one published sooner than later because I think they're good. I think considering the hot topics right now, they're good. They're good points to ponder. So I don't know. We'll see where this goes. But is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, not on this topic, and we'll save the others for
the next one. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure once again. I think this is
thank you, sir.
Entertaining and informative, and I think all who listen probably can get something out of it, if not entertainment. So, all right, man. Well, we'll leave it at that. Is there any shout outs or any promotions you want to put? Anything you want to sell? Anything?
No, just please you are blessed, and thank you for listening.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that goes for me too. Guys, have a great night, and if you get a chance, stop at the Bon Non on Pleasant Street and get yourself a basket of Andalos Kak sesame sticks. They're quite good for conversation, and you'll find the biggest Syrian breads you've ever seen, the size of like pizza pies there.
And
good stuff.
Thank you. And when you didn't hear my partner, that's because he was chewing on them sticks.
Yeah, I apologize, but they're that tasty. Anyway, have a great night, everybody. Take care. Hi, folks. Hit a like and don't forget to subscribe. And share the episodes if you like them. They tell me these segments are great for morning commute and mowing the lawn if you have incredibly good noise-canceling headphones and a very tiny lawn.